Sounds like you had an amazing early career, right? First year out of university, you're working for a business backed by Rolls-Royce.
I was all over it. It wasn't Rolls-Royce, that was our biggest customer. And he would look after Rolls-Royce, which was brilliant. So then took us into stuff like Formula One.
You took the products in Formula One.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
I'm Ashley Tate. Welcome to Founders Unfiltered, What It Takes, the podcast where we talk to founders about what it takes to build a successful business. Thomas, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Thomas Bloomfield, not to be confused with Thomas Blomfield.
Easy mistake to make. Both very successful founders.
Absolutely,
Really?
Yeah. Thomas Bloomfield from Monzo, of course. Yeah. So thanks for joining us. For people who don't know who you are, can you give us a summary of your life and how you've got here?
The whole life.
Not your whole life, but
I was born on. Yeah, of course. So no, I'm Thomas Bloomfield, co-founder of Fyous. Had a fun life of technical learning and engineering, which I then did some time actually doing an engineering role for a little bit, and I've paraphrased it massively, but got to a point in life where I had quite a big opportunity to, I essentially ended up made redundant to a job, and that left me in a position of like, well, I've gone from something that was quite a fast-growing career to a point of I could start again, and then met my now business partner, Josh, and we created Fyous about 5 years ago.
Nice. So, the job you had before Fyous, tell us about that. What were you doing?
I'll go back a little bit further. I'll do the job before that and then lead in, because the last job was quite short-lived. But essentially, as I was coming to the end of university, I was sponsored through university by a company called Unipart, which was really good. They gave me summer placements, which paid some good bit of money for the term time, and they got some contribution to my fees. And then that meant by the time I was coming to the end of uni, I'd had a really good experience of being in an engineering manufacturing workplace, which I really, really enjoyed. But by the time I was in my final year, I was really engrossed in something called Formula Student, which is an amazing project at university where you design, build and race a single-seater racing car. Great fun. And I did it all through my 4 years of uni, and in my fourth year I ran the team. And it's wicked because it basically like mimics a small business. So you have to find money. So you have to get sponsors to sponsor the team, and the university sponsors it, supports it quite a bit. You have to like employ a team essentially. So you end up with like 40 engineering students on the team, which range from people who are like leaders of the team, down to then like your team leaders in each area division. You've even got people who have to do like more of the HR side, so like recruitment. Every year you've got to run like essentially a first year recruitment program, which literally ends up being like a big company grad scheme selection. You will get sort of 80, 90 of that first year applying to be on the team, and you've probably got space for about 10 to maybe 15 at maximum. And you've got to work out how you whittle down from that 70 odd of them down to that. And we had to do like technical assessments, all sorts of stuff, presentations and whatnot to get them to work out who's the most committed and wanted to be on the team. So that just shows the kind of level of a business it was, and we were doing that really for probably one of the best times of my life, and really good fun. Gave me this massive feeling of what running a business might feel like, which was all done in uni. But in my final year, we had a really good sponsorship relationship with an arm of the university called the MRC, and they were being really supportive, but they also gave me an opportunity to see into the window of like this kind of high-tech industry. And where I had been doing all of my undergrad placements was more in the kind of a lot of exhaust industry and things that were kind of not really as technical, not really as sexy from a geeky engineering point of view.
Yeah.
And therefore I was in and out of their factory, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, they were building like this big circular round glass building that's now called Factory 2050. And I was like, that would be a wicked place to work, way more exciting than that kind of dingy factory in Coventry that I was due to go back to. So I was a bit naughty, and I reached out and said, well, what? I'm not actually convinced I want to come back to Coventry. I know you sponsored me and everything else. I really appreciate all your support. It's been amazing, but I don't think that's the right career step for me. I want to stay in Sheffield. Kindly, the AMRC had offered me a role there, so I want to stay here. I want to go work for them because that'll be wicked. And then
that's quite a... And how old were you at this time?
I would have been in final year of uni.
Final year of uni. So that was quite a confident thing to say, right? You've got this great opportunity and you say, you know what, it's not for me. Because lots of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it was. Because I think the level of investment that Unipark put into me at that point was significant, right? They give me money each year for fees. Well, actually, my journey with them goes right the way back to in between year 12 and 13, when my further maths teacher, because I am that cool, I did do further maths. Yeah, you just can't get enough of it. My further maths teacher persuaded me I should do this Nuffield bursary placement, where you apply for this bursary, you go and do a summer placement with them. And then that was really cool. And the mentor that I got in the company, a guy called Marcus, absolutely awesome guy, and I've got loads of time, loads of respect for him. He was quite kind of like driving. He was like, right, first day we sat down, what do you want out of this? How can I support you through it? And then he also was a big opportunist, and his words might have been taught me the art of the blag, which was all around kind of really making the most of every opportunity that gets put in front of you.
The art of the blag.
Art of the blag, yeah. really make the most of every opportunity in front of you. So don't just see this as okay. Just do a job for 5 weeks while you're on this placement. It's like, all right, well, what things interest you? I like the car industry. Okay, well, why don't we go and blag it all around Aston Martin's manufacturing line or Jaguar's manufacturing line or something like that, something that's kind of cool and interesting. And I was like, yeah, that'd be wicked. So then he's like, okay, well, by the end of the placement, you need to have got arranged a tour for us around Aston Martin's production line, for example. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll accept that challenge. And it's great because he's obviously got the relation with those customers that are coming in, and then puts me in the room, and I get to position that point of being that kind of like slightly cheeky student that's, yeah, all right, I'm gonna push it a bit and ask for this. And then because it's a cheeky student asking, the customer on the other side of it feels a little bit more like, yeah, all right, that's fine. Well, you can come and have a view and a tour. And then equally, what I only realised later is my mentor is still in this blag, isn't he? And he's there for like, great, we get to go on a tour around Aston Martin's production line. That'll be really interesting and it'll be fun. So it was kind of something for everyone. And he was really like, okay, well, I'm going to have a student. How do I make the most of that? And then through that, he taught me, I'm going to be a student. How do I make the most of that scenario? So it's building this constant, how do I make the most of it? And when I was in my first year of uni, I contacted them and I was like, I think I want to come back for a placement. I went back and he had done some great whispering in some ears of like the right people to be like, I think, we should support Thomas more and help him for uni. Again, making the most of this opportunity, and straight away whispered in my ear, right, there's an opportunity here to be had this summer. You need to nail this, and by the end of it, you need to be on an agreement. And we were, by the end of that, we were on an agreement and sponsored me. So long-winded version, but they had put a lot into me. They invested money each summer. They'd invested money each term in me to be there. So then to come into fourth year and go, this opportunity is like cooler up here, and I don't really want to go back to Coventry. I really like mountain biking. I really like what Sheffield's got to offer me as a community. It's got such a high retention rate. Loads of my friends are planning on staying in the city. Like, life would be pretty good if I got to stay here, versus my original really sensible plan of like move back in with mum and dad, save loads of money, be able to buy a house, everything there. And I thought, I don't think that's right. I think I need to rip that book up and shake it up. So I reached out to them and I was like, no, I don't think...
You reached out to Unipark. This is Unipark.
To Unipark, yeah. Reached back out to Unipark and said, yeah, I don't think I want to come back. I'm really sorry. But I've got an opportunity in Sheffield and I really want to take it. Even though the opportunity in Sheffield as well was a bit of a pay cut. Therefore a little bit different, but quite on the opposite of what I think a lot of grads were at that time. There's loads of people like, Jaguar Land Rover's grad scheme's paying like 30 grand a year, which, was 5 grand more than what I was going to accept as a starting salary. And that for them, everyone thought that was the really important thing. And I was like, yeah, it's still great, but I think you'll just be like a really small cog in a really big machine. I think that'd be really boring. So I didn't really fancy going at that approach. And I was like, nah, not doing that. I'm going to go for this. But then it got a bit more mental because my mentor, Marcus, then went, crap, Thomas isn't going to come back to Unipart. And he felt like actually Unipart should have that. So he then...
So Unipart wanted you back then?
Unipart still would have quite liked me. Well, that's how it seemed. And he therefore went whispering in some more ears, as he was very, very good at. He's no longer at Unipart, so I don't think he'll mind me too much saying this. He whispered in some more ears. And then I got a call from one of the group MDs within Unipart. And he says, Thomas, I know you're looking at this opportunity you want to stay in Sheffield and everything else, but we equally don't want to lose you. Can we have a little chat? And the reason I want to have a little chat is there's potentially an opportunity whereby you could maybe stay in Sheffield and we still have you. And I was like, well, my goal wasn't to leave Unipart, although I felt the MRC had this kind of sexy high-tech engineering stuff that was wicked. My goal wasn't entirely to leave Unipart, it was to stay in Sheffield and see some big opportunities. So I said, okay, let's talk about it. And I said, okay, well, I can't tell you anything about it. You need to come to Derby, meet with me and another MD, sign an NDA because we can't say anything about it yet. And then we can tell you about it. So I was like, all right, let's do that. So went down to Derby, sat in a meeting with two MDs within Unipart. And Unipart's a big company, so they're quite senior people. There is quite a intimidating element to the point where you're not even a grad yet, kind of in the room with them and straight into negotiation. You're not sat there with someone on your side to help you.
Yeah, so 4th year at uni this.
4th year at uni. Okay, let's do that. So I signed an NDA, which was the first NDA I've ever seen in my life. At that point, thought they were really, really important. And was like, okay, what's the opportunity? And basically, they then said, we're in the middle of a 3-year negotiation with Rolls-Royce to essentially take a portion of that business and spin it out into another company, which would be part owned by Unipart, part owned by Rolls-Royce as a joint venture, and then create it into a new business, which was like, oh, that's really interesting. All right, I'm intrigued. Basically, there's 6 engineers in Rolls-Royce that are going to come out. They're going to form the business. One of the MDs in the meeting, he was going to come over and be the MD of that business. And then they're like, you could be the 7th employee into that business. You could be the first kind of external person. And they were like, we're going to base it literally right next door to the MRC on the Advanced Manufacturing Park. And it'll be a small company with big parents that have the potential to do something. Like, would you like the opportunity? Oh, by the way, we'll pay you a bit more than we were going to pay you before, and we'll do some of this other stuff too. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now this sounds really exciting. So I said yes to that opportunity.
So you said yes in the room?
That's a good question, actually. I don't actually know if I can remember saying yes in the room or not. I'm pretty sure I was quite excited at the time, and I was like, I heard about it. Did I want to validate it first and see what the tech was? I don't think I was that savvy. I think at the point I was like, this is exciting.
Gut feeling.
Yeah, I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, that in some ways says a lot about why you ended up starting a business, probably, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Because not many people are brave enough to go, I'm 4th year at uni, I've got this great opportunity, I'm going to tell you how I really feel. I want to be in Sheffield. Because too many people get caught up in what you said earlier, which is like, oh, it's good pay. But the difference between 30 and 35 when you're at uni is massive. But fast forward, like, you're just chasing the money.
And it's opportunity, isn't it? And I mean, I'd seen, the grad scheme's great, fancy you dart around the business, different places and the different roles. But I'm not going to get like the technical side. I'm not going to get kind of like the the right level of, I guess, exposure where you're into like some deep problems that you've just got to solve. So for me, it was a definite, I've got to take that opportunity and go for it. And I did. And what was kind of fun with that is it was like, okay, you signed that deal now, you've got that agreement, you're going to go work for them, which I always knew. And to some extent, my sponsorship agreement did kind of cap my deliverables at university, because basically my contract said I just need to get a 2-1 or above, right?
Right. Okay.
And then I was...
What if you didn't?
Well, I don't know. I didn't explore that side of the opportunity. I assumed they'd probably still employ me. I'd negotiate my way in, wouldn't I?
Yeah. Flag your way in.
Yeah, exactly. Just blag the way through. But no, at that point, I was like, okay, well, anything over a 2-1 is a little bit wasted effort, isn't it? Like,
oh, so it's a bad idea to try too hard, you mean? Okay.
University, right, is an opportunity, isn't it? You go to university and suddenly you've got this time where you've got about an hour a week of commitment. Okay, maybe 20, 25 hours of commitment where you've got to be in lectures or in tutorials or whatever else. And then you have so much free time, right? And time is, I to this day, I have the approach that time is your most valuable asset. And you have so much time. And not on top of that time, you've got so much opportunity. You go to a sports or activity fair at university, you've got a room full of people who are all right at whatever sport activity they want to do. And you can walk up to them and say, I want to learn how to do that sport, that activity, that thing. I want to get involved in that. Can I do it? And they'll say, yep, sign up here, come to this taste session, try it out. If you enjoy it, do it some more, etc. So you can literally get involved or start doing anything. You know, I joined mountain biking. I did basketball in my first year. I got heavily involved in Formula Student. There's all these different opportunities you can just get involved in. And actually, for me, I mean, certainly Formula Student, I thought that was a bigger part of university than university was. It was like, that was where I did all my learning. I found all my opportunities and everything else like that. University was this platform where I had crazy amounts of opportunities to go and exploit. So if I'm spending loads of time working out what there's technical formulas are or memorizing these things for exams, am I really getting the most out of university? Like, for me, university was, and this might come back to be out of the black, university was about learning how to solve problems. It wasn't about the specific theoretical things you're learning at university. It was about having confidence to go, that's a problem, I'm willing to charge at that problem and find a solution through to solve it, and to therefore give us like whatever answer out of it.
And I get, and that's a really important point, I think. So you said earlier you're pleased you didn't get a first, because you learn how to solve problems essentially by doing other things that were not part of your university course.
Yeah, you learn so much more life skill, and you just had so much more opportunity. You built so many more friends. You did so much more other stuff that wasn't just sitting and studying and doing that one-off thing. And by all means, you need to study enough to get these.
Get a 2-1. You've got to get.
I'm not saying just go and drop out, but yeah, I think the rest of the opportunity is so important while you're at university. You've got to make the most of that, and that gave me Formula Student, which for me was so much of my time. You know, it was probably more time spent on that than I spent on my course. There's enough of my course that I could get my 2-1 that I needed to get the job that I had lined up afterwards.
Amazing. Yeah.
And then other than that, I could crack on. Because of the sponsorship deal as well, though, it also led me into this very, I guess, pretty privileged but kind of unique position, which was, I had this mindset. So some students at university, they don't know if they're going to get a job afterwards. So they're a little bit financially conscious and worried about some of those aspects. I kind of had probably what you would call like financial irresponsibility at university, complete opposite. And don't worry to any of my investors, we don't have that now, changed that approach entirely. But at university, the viewpoint for me was, well, it doesn't really matter about how deep the water is beneath you. As long as you keep your head above the water and you can keep breathing, just keep swimming. And I had that approach to finances, which it didn't matter how much debt I could get myself into. In actual fact, I should maximize the amount of debt I could get myself into, because that was all opportunity. That was, the more money I had there, the more I could spend on having fun and enjoying myself and experiencing new things, whilst I've got this abundance of time. After university, I've got a job, and therefore I'll be able to recoup that debt, repay that debt, and kind of come out and flourish at a later point. But then I won't have the time after uni that I've got in uni. So I need to borrow from the future all that money, spend that all now and enjoy it. Don't worry about touching the floor, because what difference does it make? As soon as you can't touch the floor, it doesn't matter how deep it is beneath you. And then just crack on.
That's a very interesting formula to university there, yeah? Would you give that advice to people going to university now? So basically you said max out the debt, don't drown, and I hope you can pay it off at the other side, right?
Only if they've got the top tier level of confidence that they're going to get a job at the end. I think you've got the confidence you're going to get a job at the end. I think you're going to get a job at the end. And I had a literal contract sat there telling me I had a job at the end, right? So I didn't mind the fact that I was spending all my interest-free overdraft that HSBC kind of gave me, or every penny that Unipark gave me.
I feel like there's another podcast on this, how to be irresponsible at university.
How to do irresponsible spending.
Yeah. But yeah, so how long were you, so hang on, so you said yes to this job at Unipark. So how long were you there for? Because, you're obviously not there now, because we need to get onto Fyous at some point.
We do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
It's a fun bit at the start.
Really interesting part of the journey, this, yeah. And I feel like this is probably the reason that you've ended up starting a business. So, but yeah, we'll get there eventually. Yeah.
So I came to the end of uni. We did our final formal student competition, which involves going to Silverstone, racing against all these other universities, not winning sadly, but having an amazing time while we're there.
Yeah. So, but where did you place? Where did you finish?
I think we came top 20, but we might have come 37th.
37 out of 37, or
no, at the time there was like over 100 unis involved in it, so we were still doing all right to place that.
Okay, yeah.
But Sheffield at the time was famed with never making it through the endurance event, and we still didn't make it through the endurance event. And despite being sponsored by an exhaust company, because obviously I then got Unipark to sponsor the team as well, we still couldn't make an exhaust that was quiet enough to get through noise regulations without stuffing loads of stuff into it that affect the performance massively.
Consistency is key.
Yeah. And actually just the reliability. Just test it until you're good. Don't worry about putting the fandango things that might give you 0.1 of a second. Worry about the things that mean that you just won't even be on the track.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. That's where we might have gone wrong from time to time. But so came to the end of uni, graduated, and that summer me and one of my mates went and spent 5 weeks in Canada doing like 3 weeks of mountain biking in Worcester and then 2 weeks of road tripping around the Rockies, knowing that Unipark was still in these negotiations as to when with Rolls-Royce as this company starting, so not knowing if the company was actually going to be there when I came back. Conveniently, I landed back on the Monday to the news that the company had formed and was going to open and start the next day. And that was very convenient because that was going to be my first day. So I literally timed it perfectly, arrived day one, and the company had just been formed. And it was a really bizarre world to walk into because if you imagine, if you're an engineer within Rolls-Royce, you don't think about anything commercial. You don't think about any of the how it sells, anything like that. Just doesn't really make sense. But for them, it was that's how all those engineers have been brought up and thought, and therefore they were used to being a number in a cost center versus actually having to think commercially as to how you turn this into something. And the MD of the company, he was quite aware that coming from Unipark, that he needed to turn this into a commercial money-making business, right? And spotted very quickly that out of the team, I was the only person in the team who had the technical understanding, but then also had this kind of commercial side of it, which I could probably thank Marcus a lot for helping me along the way. This commercial side of how we actually are going to sell this to customers outside of Rolls-Royce, how we're going to do the growth of that. And therefore, I started to lead on a lot of projects very quickly with a reasonable amount of responsibility that took me more into everything that wasn't the Rolls-Royce side, that was the automotive, that was motorsport, medical, all these other ambitions that the company had, which was wicked experience. Suddenly I was getting loads of exposure. I was getting travel down. My mentor Marcus was still involved from the Unipart side, so he could help me get introductions into companies and start to, from a really kind of young age, get that exposure of sales, of commercial, of like that technical side. I also applied a tactic. Again, the solution is just to solve the problem, right? Figure out how to solve the problem, which was technically, I think I'm an okay engineer, but I don't have an eye to spend loads of time on detail, real detailed stuff. That's not my forte. And there was an engineer there who was fantastic at that, really technical guy. His name's Sam, awesome guy. And I was like, right, me and Sam will buddy up, because Sam hates project management. He hates like all of that kind of, I guess, sort of like politics of stuff that kind of comes with any big project. Doesn't like having to deal with the customer too much and everything there. He wants to spend loads of time doing all the detail. I want to think about the big idea behind it, and then I don't want to do all the detail. And then I was like, well, I can manage the timelines, I can communicate to the customer. So basically I kind of like latched onto him like right, we'll work together on loads of stuff, and then that will help both of us. And it did, because it meant all these kind of projects I could bring in. Sam would be the support on them, he'd be a lot of the engineering resource. Brilliant. And that helped me kind of establish my position in the company. And then very quickly, as the company grew, we needed to get more and more into the outside of Rolls-Royce world. And I was getting more of my time was like split. I was doing a bit of engineering and then quite a bit more sales. And they brought in a much more senior salesperson to kind of lead all that, a guy called Richard. Loads of respect for him as well. And he also realised that there wasn't many kind of commercial-facing people in the company other than maybe me. And we started working together and realised, okay, I would transition over to a more technical sales role, or business development, as you call it, if you don't want to call it sales.
Yeah, business development is the new sales, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, let's, what about if you could... you lead the non-Rolls-Royce side. So I led the other kind of anything that wasn't Rolls-Royce. That was our biggest customer. And he would look after Rolls-Royce, which was brilliant, because I then took us into stuff like Formula One, stuff like...
You took the products into Formula One.
Yeah. I mean, it was really exciting. I mean, we never really broke it that well, but we got into about 3 Formula One teams with demonstrating the technology, delivering a product to them. And maybe the product wasn't perfectly fitted, which was a bit sad, but it meant some crazy working conditions. I mean, there was one of them we were doing for one of the F1 teams where it was like a radiator fixture, and the work ethic was insane. We'd be like, okay, well, we're going to deliver this project. We were designing it. And I was like, right, me and the chief engineer are going down to the F1 company the next day. I was like, it's not finished yet. So me and one of the other guys are literally in the workshop, and I think it was about 11 p.m. at night, and we're there like finishing off this fixture, and I kind of positioned it on the side of a desk upright, and I was like, right, I just need to go grab something. Walked over to grab something. As I did, it fell off the desk, and it's a mighty crash, and we're like, crap. Like, this is like a really highly tolerant piece of equipment. It's the night before, we're taking it down. Like, the whole USP of the company was that we could make things really, really quickly. All right, you laser cut it, and then you could assemble it very mechanically, very fast. But this was 11 p.m. on the night before. We're meant to take it down. We're leaving at 8 a.m. in the morning to drive down to the F1 team. Obviously, it's in the south, so all our... to go and deliver this. We're like, oh no, this is a problem. And I picked it back up and I was like, is it okay? Like, high precision bit of engineering equipment that I've just smashed on the floor, is it going to be all right? Obviously it wasn't. It had this big dent in the side of it and some other bits. And I was like, oh, we can't rely on the tolerancing of any of it now, because we just smashed it on the floor. So it was like, looked at my colleague and was like, okay, well, I guess we start again. Now, like, turn the laser back on, turn these other bits, let's start cutting it. We did. We cut out all the new bits of it. We were there linishing them, started assembling it, building it all up. It got to, I think it was about 5 a.m. And we were like, right, I think we finished it again. This time we haven't dropped it on the floor and it's ready. I was like, okay, I've got enough time to maybe get 2 hours of sleep. So I was home, have 2 hours of sleep. I think I took the part with me and told the chief engineer just come pick me up from my house. So he came pick me up from my house with the equipment. I was like, put it in the car, you drive, I'm sleeping, down to the customer, and then we delivered it that day.
Amazing. And that is, it doesn't matter how big the business, that kind of thinking is what drives business forward.
And it was, I think it was this kind of baptism of like quite excitement. Like I kind of keep referencing back my former student experience, but that was how we had to be in that team. And that team, it was very like, okay, well, we need all the composites done by this date to then go for have the artwork done in time for the race, or we need to have these fixings put on, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you would just be like, oh, if we have to stay in all night to get it done, we'll stay in all night to get it done. And we did, because that's what I took at the time. And I took that work ethic and philosophy into Metlays as well, and was like, well, I'm going to apply this same approach. I did, and there was regularly times where we'd be in till like 3-4 a.m. To make sure fixtures were finished and got out to the customer, because everything was delivered on a really tight time frame. And certainly like the bits on near motorsport were also quite tight time frame in automotive. So yeah, we just took that work ethic, worked as hard as we could on delivering it, and did.
So it sounds like you had an amazing early career, right? So this is like first year out of university, you're working for a business backed by Rolls-Royce. So how did Fyous come about, right? So because that's where you are now, right? Fyous is your baby.
Yeah. So I got to a point at Metlays where I was like, it's exciting, but I think there's a bit of a ceiling here for me. Like, the next roll up I want to be, I'm still looked upon in the company as kind of like the grad, and a little bit like young Thomas. He's enthusiastic and comes with a lot of passion. And well, it might be not time, but if there's time, we should go back at the end to me pitching the MD a business idea that I wanted him to do in the company. Well,
go on.
Famous.
Tell us now. Tell us. So this is when you were still.
I was still at Metlays, so very much spent 4.5 years there.
Okay. Right? Oh, so it was quite a period.
Yeah. Some of it's spread over a bit of time, and maybe like 2 years in, I started to see this opportunity in pipe fixtures. Right, sounds basic, but you think that this microphone has a pipe on it. Imagine the amount of things, especially in the aerospace industry or the automotive, where there's a pipe that bends attached to another. Mm-hmm. You have to fixture them while you're manufacturing them. Yeah. And I saw this opportunity where actually, at the moment, it was taking us like 2 weeks to design these fixtures, and then like a few days to assemble them. And it was like, to be competitive in the market, we needed to be able to sell these at like sub $5,000. And the amount of time we were spending on the design of them, each one, everything else, that was not viable. Like, it wasn't going to work. And because I was on that commercial side and that technical side, I could see from both parts of this just wasn't adding up. Yeah. I was like, how do we streamline this down? At the time, the way we were designing was we were like drawing everything out in CAD. And then we were putting all the what we call fastening features all around it, and it was really time consuming. And I realized that we could go to we could apply like a parametric model into this. We could go to something where rather than drawing each plate, we can create standardized overall shapes. So I sat with Sam, who was my technical guru, and I was like, okay, well, if we were to fixture this pipe feature, how would we make it look? And it was like, well, towers, this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, that's pretty much a standard feature, that we just have different height, different this. That is two, and so is the base. I was like, well, we could just go and we could parameterize all of that stuff. We could make that where you just put in, I want this height, that length, and that width, and it will just snap to it, and all the features will pattern onto it. And we just started to standardize our design approach. So we then developed these models that would then do that really quickly. To the point where we were then at like this, what was a 2-week design time, down to about a 4-hour design time.
So you doing this like in your spare time or in the office, so to speak?
A bit of both. So we were lobbying the management team to give us some freedom to do these bits, and then we were kind of not getting it all done in that time frame, but we were both pretty passionate on it happening, that we therefore went through. And Sam was really good at the basics of the drawing side, but he didn't really like as much what you might almost call like the coding bit, where you kind of turn it into a clever model that does all these other bits. So that was a bit I then focused on and broke the back of that. And we kind of did that, and that was wicked. And then I went home one Friday, And I was at home and I was like, this is bigger. We need bigger backing for this to go properly. We need this to happen in a big way. And actually, I felt like that company really struggled from kind of product market fit. And this is a perfect product for it. It's not reinventing the wheel every time. It's just going in and just iterating it to the different customer product. It's much more scalable, much quicker. And it was like burning in my mind so much that I was like, I think on the Saturday morning, I was like, right, get out of bed. I'm going to prepare a presentation. I'm going to go to the MD, and on Monday morning, I'm going to present to him why we need to focus more on this. So I wrote out this presentation to the level where it even like covered off why we should be doing like customer tracking. So, you know, when you order like a pizza from Domino's and it's like, oh, your order has been accepted now. Your order is in the oven, your order is out for delivery, your order's at your door. And you see this progress tracker. And I was like, even like copying bits of that and putting in a presentation, like we need this level of delivery for these rapid fire projects with customers, standardized pricing. They can virtually quote themselves by going on our website and being like, well, it's got 5 straights, 2 blends, this, that, and the other, standardized price, come out, we accept the order and we just make it and we turn it around like within 2 days and we deliver it to a customer. I was like, we can do that level of engineering on this. I think we can deliver the technical side of that now, but I need him to back me properly on it. So prepared this presentation. On the Sunday, I went to my colleague Sam's house. I was like, Sam, I need to talk to you about this. This is definitely going to happen, but I need you in the room because politically, I won't get this through on my own. You've got the experience and everything else. I need your blessing kind of thing and your backing and your recognition for the hard work you've done towards it, all in the room to make this go through. So I went to his house and I presented it to him and he's like, what planet are you on, Thomas? He's used to Rolls-Royce pace of life, and I'm there over the weekend, like creating a business plan of how I want to take the business that I'm quite junior in.
So this wasn't like a side hustle business. This was like you were pitching. You want to take this whole business in a different direction.
Yeah, I wanted the MD to back me to push the business towards focusing in on pipe fixtures as a main core product and then still doing what's kind of doing a bit more to the side. But this could be a big money earner for the company.
Yeah. Did you get the meeting with the MD?
Did you? I did. On the Monday, I was like, Steve, I need to talk to you. I need to sit down. We need to take it through. So, and he accepted it. Me and Sam sat down and I was like, right, buckle in. I presented him through what I thought was going to the business, and unfortunately, and you know, maybe he saw things I didn't, but unfortunately, he didn't bite that at that point. He didn't want. He was like, I don't think this is necessarily the right thing. You know, there's a bit of a setback for me and my ego, but he didn't want to push it. It's like, you guys keep working on it. But I can't put in that like resource that we wanted and the level of backing that we wanted to put behind it. He left it as a kind of like pet project for us, and we generated some big customer projects with it. I mean, there was some special projects teams within Rolls-Royce that would be contacting us like, okay, we've got this project, we need this many fixtures, we need them all in 2 weeks, and we'd be getting orders for like 20 fixtures within 2 weeks, some of them up to like 10 grand in value, so big ticket items. And then we'd be like smashing out the delivery of them. We had like almost like a war chat where I'd write all the fixes on it. I'd be like, right, which stage are they all at? And we'd be pushing it through. And we'd be enlisting other members of the team because when we had big projects like that, we had the power to pull other people in. So we did this really successfully for a little period of time, but we never really got the back in. I don't know if there was an ego thing or something else like that stopped us from getting that back in. We never had it recognised that we could really drive that through. And I think that was part of me also realizing there's a ceiling in this business for me. Like, I'm not going to get to spread my wings and flourish. My line manager was a great guy, really encouraged and really pushed me, but didn't. And I sat down with him and I was like, I want to get to, this is like my ambition. I think I say I want to be a director by the time I'm 30, and I'm not going to get that if I'm kind of still in this business, because really I need you out the way and I need to get up to be pushing in that position. Yeah. And he recognised that, and he was like, he was really honest with me. He was like, I think that I think you are going to be pushing past that. I suspect you'll be pushing past where I am in my career very soon. Like, I can see that ambition. I can see you're going to deliver on it. I'm not going to stand in your way, and I'll even help you with stuff like talking to other people and things like that too. I'll push as far as I can. I'll try and keep you in this business as long as I can from the business point of view. I'll get you the best offer to keep you there. But ultimately, I understand that you're going to get to a point where you hit that ceiling. At the time, then one of my customers was like, I would really like you to come work for me. And headhunted me for a role, which was then down in Oxford, there. And I was like, all right, I'm interested in that. And for keeping it quite sanitary, went into that role, and this was January 2020. I accepted that, went there, I moved there, put myself in loads of financial vulnerability by doing it. Didn't really want to leave Sheffield.
You moved to Oxford.
I kind of moved, but I kept my house in Sheffield.
Okay.
And I rented out a place down in Oxford.
Yes.
Or just a room. I was like, I'll go there, and that'll give me, like, I'll work from there. But then I'll probably be in Sheffield a lot of the weekend and things like that, 'cause I really love Sheffield, like living here. But that was in January 2020. I started that role, and
right before Armageddon
hit. Yes, exactly that. And so we were there, and started this role, and very quickly there was some off about it for me. The way that the company felt like it was quite a cutthroat environment. It felt very dog eat dog world, and it was quite difficult for me to thrive in it. And I've come back quite quick. I was putting a lot of work in, and we were still bringing in some reasonable contracts for my role there, which was good. But ultimately, the pandemic hit 3 months in, and within that time, I'd already gone on 2 ski trips, so I was hardly making my full mark on the business, maybe. And
you were enjoying life.
Yeah, living it to the max. And one of those ski trips, might I add, was in Italy, literally as the pandemic was hitting. So when we came back, we ended up in quarantine, and we were like very, very early in COVID, before anyone in the UK was taking it seriously.
Oh, so you could have been the person that brought COVID to the UK.
I've got to hope not.
From that ski resort in Italy.
From the symptoms, I was reasonably fine.
Okay.
But
We'll skip that.
yeah.
So where did the idea from Fyous come from then?
So in that time when the company got hit, I then got made redundant. And once it basically started costing the company to keep us there, they got made redundant from that. That then meant I was in this kind of no man's land. I came back to Sheffield. Fortunately, I'd kept a lot of my outgoings in Sheffield low, so I could live without this crazy level of expense. And I was like...
So you became financially responsible at this point. Yeah. No irresponsible spending anymore.
I'd flipped it around. I had to. And I had 2 housemates, so they virtually were paying for the house and everything that needed. And therefore, I was just like, right, I'm going to apply for some jobs. And I did a whole host of jobs, some that were like really high salary, like commercial roles. I thought, that would be maybe fun. And you do the interview and you're like, I don't think that's going to be very fun. Like, it's going to just be this soulless world of, well, boring. But
you didn't want a job. I
didn't want that. And then one of my friends was like, I'm helping this guy out at the moment who's been trying to set up this bar in Sheffield, like with some design of his furniture and stuff like that. But he's been talking about wanting a business partner for a new venture. And I was like, all right. And then we chatted a little bit more, and she was like, yeah, he's got quite a lot of ambition. He's been previously quite successful with his previous company. Maybe you should talk to him. And I was like, okay, I don't know much about the idea, but I like what he's trying to do with this bar idea in this way. It felt like it was something really small, and I related that back to being like maybe this feeling that I had a former student, when it was just really fun and really exciting because everything was so raw. I was, all right, I'll meet with him. I'll have a chat. So I did, and at the time, this is where I maybe cheated my interview with Josh a little bit. But at the time, I had already been starting to scheme as to what I could create as my own business. I had this idea for a business, all centered around kitchens. I'll tell you about that another day. But
it was pretty, I think, yeah, for me, interviewing you or listening to this story, like, I think it was pretty obvious from probably the time you were at university that you were going to set up your own business. Like, there's clearly something in your blood.
I mean, my neighbour said when I was 12 that I was going to own my own business and make a load of money, and because of the fact that I negotiated with her over repairing her roof of her shed. She was like, "You're negotiating with me over this," and I was like, "Yeah, I want at least 50p for that work."
There you go. There you go. Early sales training.
But yeah. So all right, yeah, I'll go have a chat. Went in and into this construction site at the time. Which was,
This is Josh, right? Josh, who is your co-founder in Fyous.
yes, and I met Josh. And Josh previously founded Mouse. Did really well there. They scaled from like a 0 to like £30 million turnover company in about 4 or 5 years. So
a Mouse. People who don't know Mouse, what's Mouse?
So fortunately, Josh does keep me well flourishing now with a mouse case on my phone. But essentially, they make phone cases and phone accessories, and very good ones. His business partner most recently has thrown a phone off a dam.
I've seen the adverts.
Yeah, and they're notorious for going outside the iPhone store when people are buying a new phone and be like, "Oh, do you want to launch your phone on the floor?" Basically, fantastic marketing strategies. Really good at marketing, really getting in, and they drove that business really, really well. So
Josh was one of the co-founders in that business.
Yeah. So Josh came up with the initial, which I don't think he'll be upset for me saying, but the initial bad idea that then created the good idea of the company. I think he'd word it similarly himself, but essentially the logic of he had the idea of creating this wind up. So at the time, everyone had headphones that dangled out with loads of wires.
Yeah.
And it was like
Bluetooth. Yeah.
Yeah, before Bluetooth.
Some people watching this might not know what we're talking about here.
Back in the day, Ash. Back in the day,
we had wires. Yeah.
They had these things with cables, a bit like this. And it was quite annoying. They were dangling everywhere. So he had this idea that you could have the headphones, you could put them in these little like almost case at the back, and then like your hose has in your garden, and you can ravel it up.
Yeah.
It had that on the back of your case, your phone case, to ravel up your cable. And he thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. And Josh does come up, I'll give him a lot of credit, comes up with a lot of ideas. Some of those ideas are good ideas. And this might not have been the creme de la creme of the idea, but it then was enough for him to go, I'm going to create a business around this. And you'll have to have him on to tell that story.
We'll definitely get Josh up.
I won't steal all his thunder there, but essentially he went and found James, who he then founded that business with. James brought in a bit more of the financial side. Josh brought in a bit more of the technical side. They realised the product was crap, iterated the product to a good product, which was more about the invincibility of phones and everything else like that, which they're now very good and very well renowned for, and then grew and scaled that business. So that's my paraphrase of Josh's story. But
well, we'll get Josh on. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, he'll do a better job of that than I ever will.
So you met Josh.
So met Josh in this bar that he was creating.
Okay, in Sheffield.
In Sheffield. This virtual reality bar. I was like, all right, let's go see what his gig is. And I won't go into the details of that, but yeah, we met there, and he was like, right, I've got this idea behind this technology. I was like, okay. And he was quite secretive about it to start with, but he was like, I'll tell you a little bit, and then I want you to tell me a little bit, and then we'll kind of like flirt our way in to the point where we're confident and trust each other. And he was like, essentially, I want to use loads and loads and loads of tiny little pins and move those pins into a position, into a shape, use that as like a tool, and then move them again into another shape and use it as a tool for something else. And like a shape-shifting kind of mold idea. And I was like, all right, I can kind of see that. I mean, a lot of my work at Metlays had all been in like fixturing, holding things, engineering world. So I have quite a good insight as to this ongoing problem of people always being stuck with fixed tooling and always being stuck needing really high upfront costs to get anything. So I had some level of feel of like, that makes sense. And he was like, I want like a kind of technical co-founder who understands the technology and who can work with me on developing the tech, but equally someone who actually enjoys the other side of business, which is the commercials, the raising capital, everything else, the people side of operations, 90%, all that kind of stuff of creating the business. I want someone who enjoys that, so I can, because his passion is the technical. He's like, I want to focus on that. I want someone else who'll do a lot of the other stuff. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm definitely interested. So Josh then said to me, well, I want a bit of an interview. Let's do some actual talking. As part of this, will you create a business case for me, and then come back and present that business? It doesn't have to be this business idea or anything else. An idea you've got, create a business case around it, and come back and present to me that business case. And I was like, fair play, yeah, I'll do that.
So this was Josh's interview, if you like, for a co-founder.
Yeah. He had the idea. He needed to find someone who was going to be a good fit for him to found the business with. He knows that successful, like parent and business partners can make businesses really work. He knows his strengths, and to his credit, he definitely knows his strengths. He knows where he doesn't enjoy and his weaknesses. So he needs someone to fill that void. So I was like, yeah, prepare this and let's go through it. So I was like, and he was like, I'll give you 24 hours. So tomorrow, this time, we'll back here and we'll do it.
Well, from everything I've heard, this sounds like right up your street for a challenge.
I was all over it. But this is where I come back to a little bit where I slightly had cheated because of the fact that over the last few weeks, I'd been building up an idea of what I wanted to take into a business. And I was like, well, actually, I've done a good amount of that thinking, a good amount of that work. I've got a lot of that sat there. But never let the truth get in the way of a good story, and let's make the opportunity take this good opportunity. So I went back to that, and I was like, yeah, I've done a good amount of that. Let's build that up properly. Let's think of it like really put it into detail, put it into a good presentation, make it really convincing, and build this pack up. And then I went to Josh the next day and I presented it to him. I was like, right, this is what I'd do. This is the business I would start. I actually think it's better than your idea, but whatever.
Oh, so he was asking you to pitch any business idea?
Yeah.
Just to test your...
The kind of business side of it, really. Like the bit, I guess, we were looking to work together on. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Pitch that. And it was all about making smart kitchens, because I find it so frustrating when you go into the shop and you are like, okay, well, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? And I'll go to the shop for some inspiration. And you stood in Morrison's and you just got the McVitie's being advertised to you. And I was like, well, I'm not going to eat that for dinner, am I? And it's just this nightmare of how you create this nice concoction. I was like, you need systems that integrate that into your kitchen. What ingredients you've got in the house, what ingredients you need to buy, how much you've got, how much you need for this recipe, what recipes to eat. All of this is like, that needs to become into like one contained package, and it'd be amazing. So I pitched that point to him. Naturally, I don't lack the passion to kind of
absolutely, yeah.
And he was like, wow, yeah, that was wicked. Like, he even liked the idea to quite a good level, but had one that we were going to follow through on.
Well, okay, so you pitched that. You sound like you've thought this business through to quite a lot of detail. So how come you went with Fyous, which is nothing to do with smart kitchens? I'm sure you'll tell us about that shortly. So what happened to the smart kitchen idea?
Well, you've got two things there, haven't you? I was like, well, Josh is in quite a good position with having a bit of financial comfort from his partial exit with Mouse and stuff like that. He was quite compelling. I liked the idea. It linked quite well to what I wanted to do, like to a lot of my previous experience. I could bring a lot into that. From the various industrial point. I kind of thought, well, if I give this a whirl, if it all flops and fails, then maybe I'll gain some experience, and I might go back and try my previous idea. And ultimately, if someone else tries that idea, that'd be fantastic, because it'll get me over my problem of having to cook every night and figure out what I'm going to have.
So you were secretly hoping someone else would do it.
I kind of wasn't scared of someone else having the idea. What I wanted was, I was like, well, this is a wicked opportunity. Josh got his heart set on this. I'm interested. I like it. So, all right, let's give that a whirl. I'll park that and let's open up doing this. And I wanted a business partner as well. My boyfriend will tell you that I'm an incredibly dependent person on like needing people around me, relationships and stuff like that. I'm not really a lone wolf that likes to do things on my own. So I didn't like the idea of starting it just by myself. So I had a good potential business partner here. I was like, yeah, I think that makes more sense for me to get stuck into that than to try something just by myself and then start the journey of finding business partners. Now I think I'd be like 10 times more confident, more than 10 actually, on like, I can go out and find a business partner, we can start this business and we'll just crack on and do it, right? I think that'd be a completely different approach.
Yes.
But then I probably didn't have quite the level of knowledge that I've got now to be able to do that. So I think it was like, yeah, I'll get involved with Josh. He's got some capital to help us get off the ground. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So then within, I think it was about a week or so, we had our first day in the office, which was me and Josh in the attic of this big house that he was renting at the time, because he had just exited the house and was enjoying that time a little bit. Although he then remembered the tight Yorkshireman that he really is and soon downsized. But he had this attic of this garage. So we set up there. We had some makeshift desks that he had put together.
That's the best startups always start in the worst offices. I think, and there's a story about Amazon, and maybe even to this day, I don't know if it's real art, I'm sure it's not real, where the desks are made from like old doors.
Yeah.
The most, unergonomically friendly desks, but yeah.
So yeah, ours were very, very similar to that. I think we built it. I mean, mine within a few weeks had some blocks under it to make it a little bit higher because it was a bit lower. So that was a modified version. It was the upgraded desk and sat higher than the rest. But yeah, we had our makeshift desks, and then set about creating Fyous really.
So you and Josh are in this office. So what stage one, what's year one look like? What are the key milestones throughout that first year?
Yeah, so it was me and Josh, and then the friend who had introduced me to Josh, who'd been helping him on some of the stuff, designing the stuff for the bar. She's a fantastic engineer.
Okay, so there's still a bar going on at this stage.
There's still a bar going on, Ash. You never just focus in on one thing because that'd be too easy. There's still a bar going on, and she'd been helping with that, and we were like, well, 100%, like, Katie should come and join us on this journey, and help from the engineering perspective. So we did that. There was kind of the three of us at the time. Typically in that first year, it was like, well, we need a premise somewhere that's not just a desk and an attic to a garage. We kind of need the space for some machinery. We need to get some machinery. We wanted to have, and this is a credit to Josh, is he's always had this view of to move fast, we need the capability in-house. If we're always going out to contractors to make stuff, it will always be way slower. So every time you've got to lift up the phone or send an email to be like, can you make this for us? It's back and forth. 2 weeks later, you find out the part. If you've got the machine just there in your workshop, you can just crack on straight over to it, make the part, and then you've got it back on your desk within a few hours. And that mindset was like, okay, well, we're going to spend a bit of money and we're going to get some of these bits in. So we went to there's this crane yard out in Chesterfield that Josh fortunately knew the owner of, and he had let Josh in this basically shed set up this mock-up of the bar setup they were going to do, and then we were like, okay, well, maybe we could take that on as a unit, and it was very small. But we were like, fine, we'll sign a deal. We'll have that for very, very little money. But equally, there's a good reason it was very little money. It was not much more than a shed. It was absolutely freezing in there. And I was like to Katie, right, the only way we're going to make that into an office is by just moving in. We're going to move in. Like tomorrow, we're going to go there, and then we're just going to figure out everything from once we're there. Like, okay. It's bloody freezing, so we made this like makeshift wall in the middle to kind of give ourselves a bit of an office space that was easier to kind of try and warm up a little bit. And there's some photos of us in the office, like wrapped up in everything we could find to try and warm ourselves up. And then the other side of it would turn into a bit of a workshop. So then we looked for like secondhand equipment and some other bits, some engineering things like a milling machine and some other parts that we could have there. And we set about creating the first makeshift version of polymorphic molding. And at the time, we were so sensitive about IP and everything, so we didn't want to show anyone anything to do with the idea of the technology, because a patent is great, but the only way to, like, a patent is like, say, here's my invention, telling the world about it, but asking them politely not to do anything with it.
So did you have a patent at this point?
Not at that point, no. It was like, we kind of got that, and we don't really want to file a patent yet because we don't want to get ahead to that point. We'd rather keep it a trade secret, keep it to no one to know anything about it.
So a patent, sorry, I'm talking to you like I know nothing about this, and to some degree I don't. So a patent, once you've got a patent, the whole world, you're essentially publicizing your secrets to the world.
That's my paraphrase view on it.
Okay.
And there's an art to writing them where you try and keep as much of the secretive know-how bits that you don't have to put to make it work on the patent outside of the patent. But typically you've got to put a reasonable amount in, and then you're like, okay, this is the invention, and therefore once it's published properly, you can go on and you can patent search and find all these things, right?
Got it.
And then if you infringe on that patent, we're then allowed to come and sue you for loads of money.
Yeah.
But to sue someone for loads of money, you've got to have a legal team, you've got to have all these other points. When a big company goes, yeah, well, I fancy doing that, and you go, oh, but you can't because we've got a patent, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, come at us.
Okay.
And,
So
I've definitely heard stories where CEOs of big companies have gone, someone's like, well, we'd be infringing on so-and-so's patent, and they've gone, let them come for us. Because ultimately they'll fight it all out, and eventually they'll settle on something and everything else. But if you're a little company coming at them, they'll just drown you. You just don't have the clout to do it. Yes, you can get insurances and various other things that do that, but it's all just this money-making machine that you're such a little fish in, and actually you're up against it when you try and enter it.
So you've got this business with these trade secrets essentially that you don't want to tell anybody because that's the value. So then what happens, right? So you can't tell them about this thing, but you need to grow this. You need to grow the business.
We need investment.
Okay, investment.
Because the little bit of capital we had was great. We could buy some equipment and we do that. And we worked really hard to stretch that capital through to getting us like a really early prototype. And to put it into reference, our early prototype made a splodge.
A splodge.
A splodge. A really cool splodge. A splodge that roughly resembled the shape of a foot.
Hang on. So I've seen this. I've seen what you produce now, or I've seen the machine you have now. I mean, my description of it was a black box that produces some magic, but it's essentially a kind of a 3D printer. Or am I not doing it justice here? Right? I'm definitely not doing it justice.
Yeah. So it's you have the relation to a 3D printer, but it's essentially having all these digitally controlled pins, kind of like those children's toys that you put your hand in and all the pins move. Imagine a digitally controlled one of them with like thousands and thousands of pins. We can control accurately each one 0.8 millimeters in diameter, and we can lock it in a location. We can bring multiple of those together, and then we can inject a fluid directly into there inside a bit of a membrane. And that'll expand and cure into the shape that we've created with those that pin effect. We open that up, and then we've got a physical part. So different to 3D printing, where you build up layer by layer slowly with a lot of inter-layer weaknesses and various other things. This gives you a homogeneous part really, really quickly, and thus enables you to start looking at scaling, like mass manufacturing a completely customizable product. So you go from one product to the next product to the next product. And at the time, our view was we were going to create a footwear brand. We were going to be a footwear brand that offered completely custom-made footwear. And we saw our technology as the core of that. Actually, I lie a little bit. Before that, we were just going to do insoles. Not even the whole shoe, but we were just going to do an insole. So then when we were creating this, we were like, well, we now need to create this to a point where we can create that shape, that insole shape. So we created a prototype that enabled us to kind of move some of our pins, and we then created a membrane that we could vacuum form into it, and then we poured in some material that could then cure into that shape, and that then created the world-renowned splodge.
The splodge. Okay. So you took this splodge to investors?
Yes. Yes, we did. We then started our investment journey with this splodge. Now, bearing in mind, in Mouse, I don't think Josh had been that involved in the investment round, but equally, he didn't really have a huge appetite to be doing all the investment round. That's why he wanted a business partner. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go figure out getting some investment then, won't we? And he did have some connections that they certainly helped, but the first cornerstone investor came through an approach of basically, who on earth do I know who might know someone who might have some money who might give us?
I mean, that's a great bit of advice, right? Because you need to find someone. Yeah, okay, great bit of advice, I think. Yeah.
So that became step one.
Okay.
How could we do that? Basically, we started knocking down every door we could find to talk to anyone who would listen to us, to tell them about our splodge and the rest of the business and the idea of the business, to try and persuade them to put some investment into us. Now, what was really fortunate is when I was rewind back to when I was at university, I was a former student. One of our sponsors was Megit, which was a FTSE 250 company at the time. And the sponsorship deal had been set up with their UK CTO, a guy called Keith, another great guy. And I reached out to him because I saw on his LinkedIn, great place for raising investment. I saw on his LinkedIn that he had his title was now entrepreneur in residence at Sheffield University. Oh, well, come on, you can't be an entrepreneur in residence and not have knowledge of raising investment and everything else. So I reached out to him, and we had formed a really good relationship when we got there. We arranged the sponsorship deal with them and formed a student, to the extent where actually he tried to persuade me to go and work for Megit after university. And again, I said no, because it was too much of that kind of big corporate thing that I didn't want to do. My technical director on the team, he went to work for them and has quite a successful career with them, doing really well now. But I didn't fancy that. And then I reached out to Keith, and he was like, oh, look who's come crying back. No, he wasn't like that. And we had a little conversation. I was like, who do you know who might be able to invest in us? Do you know anyone? Is there anyone who would? And he's like, okay, heard about the business, like the idea. He's like, well, I can introduce you to a few people. And one of the people he introduced us to was a guy called Gino. Now, Gino has a big investment firm down in London, about 300 mil under management, and is a guy who understands people. He's a people person. And Keith arranged this meeting with Gino and had this chat with him, and he was like, okay, I'm kind of interested. I'll come up to Sheffield. I'll come and see you guys, and we'll go from there. So Gino came up to Sheffield, and first we met him in the virtual reality bar that was still this kind of thing going on.
Was this bar open at this point?
Yeah, it was open. It was COVID, and it was very difficult.
Right, okay. So you met Gino in the bar?
Yeah, I met Gino in the bar, and I had a chat with him about this and everything else. He was keen. They were like, right, we'll take you to the workshop, the shed, and show you like what we've done so far. So we took him there. I'm like, here's our splodge. We've created this splodge based on a scan that we've created on from just this CAD model, and therefore, we've gone from one to the other really, really quickly. But we don't actually want to show you how we've done it. Because if we show you the technology, then you become a potential leak of the technology to everyone else. So we want you to invest based on the pudding, which is the splodge. It's not very accurate splodge. Without showing you what is under this black cloth. So we put a black cloth over the machine, and we're like, we don't show you what's under there. And we're like, if we show you this, then we set a precedent that we have to show every other investor that comes into the business. Whereas if you invest in us and don't see it, then we can use that position to tell everyone going forward that we don't need to show them the technology, that someone else has led the round without seeing the technology. They've seen the splodge, they trust us, they've seen the proof in the pudding, and they're willing to invest on that basis. and we said you probably won't understand that much of it anyway, and it'll be a bit like all over, so it's a bit low value to show you.
So what did he say?
Well, he was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll invest. I'm not going to look it up, but I'll invest blind, essentially. Before this conversation, Josh and I had sat there and we were like, are we going to show them the technology or we're not? I'm like, we're not going to show them the technology. We can't show them the technology. And we were having this discussion about whether or not we could.
I mean, you'd have to be pretty smart to look at it and take that away, right? And do something with it.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Like maybe we were being a bit over the top, but this set the precedent of how tight we were about our IP and how kind of like as worried we were at the time of that being leaked out.
Yeah.
And we put a lot of energy and maybe the wrong level of energy into stopping anyone knowing anything about that.
Mm-hmm. So he committed. He committed to invest.
He committed to invest. Not only that, he had some people. Like everyone has some people, when you invest in businesses, you know some people that also invest in businesses.
Yep.
He knew some people, he persuaded them. Well, he didn't persuade them really, he just told them about the company and they were like, yeah, okay, if you're going in, Gino, we'll follow in behind you. And it did later transpire that Gino sat down and told us that his main reason for investing in the business isn't particularly about the technology or the idea. He's pretty confident, and he was right, that what we've told him today we're going to do with the business is not going to be what we'll do with the business. But what he saw is me and Josh sat there really keen, loads of passion, loads of energy. We're not going to give up. We're going to create a successful business, even if that business is bloody doing smart kitchens.
And that is such good advice to give to founders, right? Because so many people think it's about the idea.
I think it's good advice to give to founders, but I think it's also good advice to give to investors. Early angel investors is like some people, we've had people really quiz into this about the idea, that about the technology, this and that. But actually, you're backing people to basically go into battle, and to be able to just come up with the pivots, the ideas, the changes, everything else that has to happen to make a business happen, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're backing. Mm-hmm. You're not backing that specific idea. And this is where it comes back to, and before we started chatting, we were talking about how my view is of an idea. An idea, I think, is like 10% of a business, right? It's that initial thing that gives you a passion to start with.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, the rest of the 90% of the work is everything you have to do to make that idea something. And in that process, I think a lot of the time, you're not far off losing the idea. The idea has gone by the wayside because you found the thing that is the thing that then creates the business, then creates the money. So you're then focusing on that and you're growing that. So
you've raised this investment. How many people are involved?
Well, so Gino said yes. He then brought in a couple of people. One of Josh's contacts then decided he was keen to come in and brought in a few more people behind him as well. So that was great. We had these 7 people in total that were investing. I think it was 150k, all SCIS investment. And yeah, they were in. And then we're like, great. And in our absolute backing our ambition and our fact that we were going to succeed, at this point we were like, well, we haven't got the money in the bank, we haven't completed the round, but we are going to employ some people. So we were straight out already finding some people, getting some people on board. I think they'd even started before we had closed the round of investment. Like we were like, we've got to be running at this at speed.
And do you think that was the right thing to do, employ people?
I think so, yes, because it just brought this energy and speed into the business. Like me and Josh didn't really have an interest in building something really slowly and just having this slow, long burn on it. Like, yeah, we could put loads of the time and effort into it, but there's a value to our opportunity cost, right? The more years we spend building this business, the more years we're not spending doing something else that we want to do. And therefore we had this view of like, actually, we want to build this fast. And if it's going to fail, we want to fail fast. We can get some good people, some more engineers, people to do more of that development work so we can develop the technology much faster. then we'll be able to advance the company way quicker. As a hardware company, they take so long to develop the hardware and actually get to the point where you've got the product that you want to get and where everyone else can see and understand the product. So yeah, I would never regret employing people into the company and really pushing on.
So where are you now then? Where's the business now?
So we're still in our little shed in Chesterfield. Sadly, Katie was no longer with us, who had joined us at that point, but we had employed 3 engineers to join our team. So there's about 5 of us. We were on the cusp of getting the 6th person because the government was doing this scheme of getting people into work. So they were essentially willing to pay someone's salary for 6 months to come and work for us. That as long as they were on job seekers at the time or something along those lines. So this young lad, Joe, came to join the team, who hadn't got any experience in the world of work, really, but needed some. And we're like, well, what's better than a baptism by fire of us? So yeah, boy, so it's 6 of us. We have a bit of a prototype of the technology, and ultimately we're like, right, we need to continue to develop the technology to the point where it's something functional, and ideally get ourselves to the point of where we're selling this product. And that product, at that point, we thought was going to be an insole. So we started work on the product. We we created splodges that became more defined splodges that eventually became something that resembled an insole. And then we were there putting it in our shoes, walking around in it, like, does it fit? Does it fit? How does it feel? Go for a run, all that kind of stuff. And we're like, God, these are bloody uncomfortable.
So when did you decide to take this to a customer? When did you decide to try and sell this?
Well, quite early on.
Did you make it comfortable?
Yeah, well, no. We started to get to this logic point of we could ask loads of people, right? If I come up to you and I say, look at this thing, Ash, what do you think about it? Ultimately, people typically go, they it's all right, but here's all the problems with it. Now, the only true test for us of whether or not we've made something that's of value was to get someone to buy it, and to get them to commit money to it.
Absolutely. I give this advice to so many startups. Like, don't ask someone if they want to buy it. Ask them to buy it.
Yeah, and if they don't buy it, ask them why they didn't buy it. And eventually someone will come around to the point of buying it, because you listen to enough people that say why they won't buy it, and eventually you hopefully land at a point where someone will buy it. So we did that, and as we were kind of with it on the insoles, we were making all these relationships with loads of podiatrists, loads of potential routes to the market who liked the concept, didn't like the product yet, everything else. And then on that journey, we were kind of like struggling to gain the traction really with the podiatrists and with the insoles. And then we were also kind of losing a little bit of belief that we thought that whether or not insoles really needed to be created.
So how many people had you spoke to at this point? Oh, how many people so you tried to sell this product to people at this point, right?
Yeah, we started trying to sell it into the kind of podiatry industry, and as an insole, probably like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40. It's difficult to remember, but podiatrists.
So you've had a lot of no's at this point.
Yeah, a lot of people say no, and for various reasons, or they really like it, but we need to do more of this and more of that. If we never got through with that, and they were selling insoles just made in different ways. So then we were like, actually, maybe our belief is more that we need to push further. And actually, if you take an insole, make it out of something a little bit more sturdy, put a little strap over the top of it, you essentially turn it into like a flip-flop or a sandal or a piece of footwear.
Okay. So you're pivoting into...
We're sort of leaning this way of like, what about if we did that? And then we then tried this, well, that could be a direct consumer product versus something that might go through a medical kind of route or anything else. So then we started creating this kind of like sandal type thing, this barefoot sandal. My partner called it a Jesus sandal, which he hated me wearing this because that was a good part of product testing was wearing this day in, day out.
You're wearing all and eat your own dog food. I've heard the phrase.
Even what?
Eat your own dog food.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Like everything I went to in like this kind of Fyous sandal. We were determined to make that work. So we then created some online presence. We started to create for Shopify, started to try and persuade people to buy these sandals, gave out some free samples to some people, went and like captured content of them opening their perfect fit product that they'd scanned at home and gotten their sandal perfectly fit into the door. And that was a whole host of journey, but still within that, it was very difficult to convince people to spend about £150 on a sandal that perfectly fits. And really, did it perfectly fit? It was rough around the edges, and it wasn't at the quality level it needed to be. But we were getting interest. The people in industry that were showing, like, there's a guy who distributed for a brand, and he was like, I really like what you're doing. I've seen the product. It's not good enough yet, but I like where you're going with it. If you can get it good enough, I'll be there. So we're constantly, like, the engineers are constantly working on the innovation side of improving the materials, improving the product, improving everything else. Well, I'm trying to work on selling it to someone. Will someone buy it?
So your job really is sell this thing, sell it
to someone, everyone who will have it. So we did a lot of time on that. But then another kind of semi-pivot happened, because after we were really struggling in the sandal space, I think one of the engineers stuck a sock to the top of the sandal, and they're like, it's kind of like just like a knitted upper when you put a sock on it. And then that pushed us more into, okay, maybe actually we need to be at a trainer level. Maybe it's not that hard to make a trainer. It is hard to make a trainer.
I say you tried and failed a few times here then.
Definitely. There's definitely loads of us, like, trying the product, failing, creating something, it not being sexy enough, it not looking good enough, it not being this. And all along this whole time, we're still learning. And possibly some of this was the wrong way, because we're, like, iterating this product so much, but really we're just trying to learn the technicals. But at this point, we'd stopped really pushing hard on developing polymorphic molding, because we were putting so much effort and resource into figuring out how to make a good upper of a shoe. and like how to scan a foot properly, and all these other bits that we had to do in order to create this as a footwear brand that then enabled us to sell trainers.
So you'd lost focus.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair. Like, we were trying to make all of that work, and we weren't. And it happened. This is one of Josh's great moments where it would kind of be like, it doesn't feel right. It feels like we're really pushing something in the wrong way and doing the wrong thing. And he came into bat one day with, like, well, I think we need to focus on what we're good at. Like, we're putting loads of effort into making all these uppers, into doing loads of other stuff, other bits that don't really add value. And actually, we need to focus in on the core part we had the value in, which was polymorphic molding. It was making this shape-shifting technology. And we're like, yeah, but no one else will want to buy that just on its own. Like, that's why we thought we had to have the whole footwear brand, because if you can provide a custom-made sole unit or anything else to a customer, they're not then going to have a custom-made upper to go on it. Little did we know that there is a whole industry that does that, which is all in the medical footwear. They already have that space. And at that point, we were like, well, maybe actually we can create we can create that as a product. We can sell just the sole units to the medical footwear industry. They can put it on their existing uppers, and then they can use that as their product. So then we started to talk to that industry, and it was really interesting, because from the push into the kind of podiatrists that we'd done earlier on, then we found this new industry, which is the orthotists, and completely different, but all still dealing with feet. Well, not all orthotists deal with feet. They'll shoot me for that. But a lot of them, there's those of them that do.
So just for people that, I'm one of these people, right? What are these customers selling, or what are they buying off you? These are not regular shoes, right? These are not Nike or Adidas.
No, these are footwear for medical needs. So biggest medical need typically is diabetes, right? And you might think that's just a thing with your blood sugar and stuff like that, but it has loads of knock-on effects. Right. And one of those knock-on effects is that it causes neuropathy. Now, 50% of diabetics get neuropathy, and that's why they stop being able to feel the ends of their hands and feet. and they lose feeling in the whole of their feet sometimes. And of those 50% that develop neuropathy, you will then get around about, I think it's 60,000 a year in the UK will develop a foot ulcer. And basically, if you or I have a little bit of pain on our foot, you would start to offload that bit of your foot. You wouldn't walk on it as much, and you'd give yourself some relief. What they'll do is not feel that. They'll keep walking on it. It'll keep rubbing, and it'll open as an open wound. As soon as it's an open wound, that's a foot ulcer. But part of the neuropathy, and the reason it has such an effect, is it narrows the blood vessels. So they've got less supply of blood and antibodies to go and cure that open wound. So it's then a really dangerous ulcer. And at that point, they need to start offloading the force on that ulcer. Otherwise, it will essentially get infected to the point where you have to amputate part of the foot. And to put it in perspective, there's 10,000 amputations in the UK a year.
Wow.
And there's I think it's a 70% 5-year mortality rate from an amputation. So
Yeah.
it gets to eat quite fast. Not a nice outcome at all. So along that journey, you get to a point where they then go, right, we need to put you in footwear. And it's typically the gold standard of treatment is a caster and ulcer, get the ulcer to a stable point, and then they'll put you in footwear that distributes the force properly across your foot so you don't have any hot spots of force. And that's medical diabetic footwear. And that's all custom made around your foot. And these feet are in weird and wonderful shapes. Like, we're not just talking like your size 1 to 10. You've got like really big, kind of like swollen feet, that the blood's congregating in them and everything else. They're swollen out. They're very uncomfortable looking. And therefore, you've got to be able to package these feet in footwear, and you've got to be able to protect these feet from getting ulcers or anything else. So it's really complex cases, and they all require custom-made footwear in order to treat the case.
Okay.
And that therefore meant that our customer became the people who are making that at the moment, who all supply the NHS, supply healthcare companies with that footwear. You go to the hospital will take measurements on your foot. They'll then send it to these companies. They'll make the footwear and they'll ship it back to you, and hopefully it'll fit. But it's a hard world where actually, although you are in a pretty critical state, a lot of patients still don't necessarily want to wear the medical footwear they've been provided with. And that's often the case because of the aesthetic of the footwear. It really doesn't look that aesthetically pleasing because it's really hard, because when you're making so many of these pieces of footwear all by hand and you're having to craft bits into it, you can't style it like you can style a Nike Air Force One or anything like that. Like, you are just like, okay, well, it's functional and it can go on your foot. But people don't like just functional. People like to look good still. And if you put someone in that place, they just stop wearing footwear. They stop going out. They become much more recluse. And that all adds into this whole bit why you end up with a 5-year mortality rate that's so bad, is because people actually retract from life. It's not because the thing on their foot's killed them directly. It's because various other factors have led in that then their life ends. And that's horrible. But if you can create footwear that looks really nice, it's really appealing and really sexy to them, and they will go out and wear it and they'll feel pride still in their appearance themselves, they won't be as debilitated. They'll still be able to work. They'll still be able to contribute, and they'll still feel valid and certain themselves. And that adds this really nice positive effect. And part of that, if we can take out all of the manual labor that's involved in making the sole units of those shoes, we'd be able to create styles and designs that look really cool. And therefore we can make footwear that's way more appealing to those people and that they will be happy to wear, and go up from there. So it looped itself around.
Yeah, amazing. So real world problem, lots of pain.
Yes.
From potential customers. So is that what you do today?
So that is, we focused a lot of effort and time in on that. We built some really good relations in that space. But then we needed to showcase to the world the potential of the technology. And the only way we could really do that is by actually taking the covers off the tech. So up to this point, we'd kept all the covers on the technology, just look at the solution only. And we were like, okay, well, we're going to now develop a machine to showcase this to the world. And this was partly around us being able to get to real investment milestones as well, because for as long as we were just providing to that real problem where there's money, but it's not a big enough industry for investors to be able to see the returns that they want, we needed to demonstrate how our equipment or technology could go into far more industries than just solving that one problem.
Yes.
So what we did is we created this kind of, I guess, a demonstrator machine, like that really enabled people to see and understand technology. We unveiled it at Formnext, which is a big 3D printing show, to kind of be like, actually, we're not 3D printing, but we're kind of doing something similar to what you guys are trying to do in terms of the solution. And we brought it to that. It was really well received. And did we raise investment to build it? I mean, we must have raised another round of investment. We must have been on the second round by this point. We raised that. We went to the show and we unveiled our machine there and showed the world this is what polymorphic molding is. And the reason we did that, right, is because the first person who came up with 3D printing didn't go, well, I can use it for all of these applications. They had no idea of all the applications it could be used for, but they thought it could probably be used for a few things. And then what happened is they showed it to the world, and the world came back and was like, well, we could use it for this. We could use it for that. We could use all these other weird and wonderful things that you had never imagined before. And we're like, well, we need to do that with our technology. We need to showcase it to the world in a way where people can digest it and see, I'm going to create this thing with your technology. So then we started to get inquiries from the tech from like big major aerospace companies, automotive companies, Formula One companies, like all these exciting industries to start seeing, well, this is the cool thing about the technology.
So at this point then, so you've moved away from producing the products that you're going to sell, and now you're selling the technology.
Now we're focusing on the technology with the hope that we could still service that kind of medical footwear world, but we weren't going to be able to get the business big enough with the investment, with everything else we wanted, if we just did that on its own. So we had to do something to showcase the bigger potential that then we could then come back to investors with like, look at how big this potential really is, like get on it and we'll do something wicked with it. So we did that. We brought about, and actually now I think about the timelines, we were really actually into our third round at this point, because based on that whole case around the diabetic world, we did our third investment round, which we then also managed to get match funded with grant funding to be about 1.4 million. That then enabled us to do the development of the footwear, but in the parallel with that, we were able to develop the technology a lot. And bring that through to fruition. And there was a point in that journey there where we then went, this technology needs to be broadcast out. Otherwise, at the end of this, we're not going to end up with a position where the business is viable to carry on. Like, we need to listen to the market and create something bigger. And the other thing at that point that we didn't do enough of was listening to our customer to the point where they would be able to tell us how our technology would really fit into their flow. Because initially we were like, okay, we're going to make the product and supply it to them. So we'll make a sole unit and we'll ship it to you. You'll attach it to a shoe. But then when we started to push more into that idea of, we'll make the technology, provide you the technology, you'll make the sole unit and you'll put it on your shoe, that was a big different switch. And what we didn't consider in that is then the adoption of the technology into their factories, into how they're going to use it. And that's a big problem, because then we're kind of like, well, why won't you buy this machine? It does what we were going to do. Why wouldn't you have it? And they were very, and then it's like, well, it doesn't really make sense for us to put it in our facility, because suddenly you've made the process more complicated than it already is, because there's all these steps in the way we've created this machine. We've created this broad showcase piece of equipment, but it didn't really do thing we needed it to do specifically for them. And that was a little bit repetitive into all the other industries. We'd excited so many industries, but it didn't directly solve the problem that they needed it to solve.
So where's Fyous today, and what's the future then?
Yeah, so now we've been around a huge amount of learning. We've created this demonstrator product that's shown to the world what our technology can do. Mm-hmm. And then we've done a huge amount of coming back to like, where do we add the most value? And it was back in the medical footwear space. So you're going to see some recurring themes through the story and through the journey.
Okay, so lots of pivots.
There's, yeah, I mean, just strategical realignments, but yeah, I mean, some would definitely call them a pivot. But yeah, essentially, there's lots of refocusing in on this bit's right, this bit's right, and this bit's right. And for various reasons and facts that were at the time forced us into this, well, we need to kind of maybe pause this kind of medical footwear piece right now, showcase the technology to enable us to carry on the journey. Otherwise, we'll hit a dead end here. We need to do that. But then once we've done that, we can then come back around to be going, well, now we can apply the technology properly into the medical footwear space. And we built a really close relationship along this journey with a really great guy in Beacock's Medical Group, and he could see the kind of vision of how our technology could really change the game within the medical footwear industry, and not just for one product, not just for the sole units that we were talking earlier, but actually to make custom-made lasts, to make custom-made soles, to make custom-made insoles, even like these other things called cradles and various other products that have to go into medical footwear. He's like, just sees how there's all the manual labor and stuff that happens at the moment, which is huge variability and reduces product quality, could suddenly become highly automated, quite high-tech process that then delivers a much better product. So we talked a lot, and we built a really good relationship with them. And Josh had a bit of a hunch on this one and was like, I'm going to hound Jimmy over and over to the point where, we could get this idea of maybe some kind of deal. And then we ended up meeting with them a lot, really understanding the process in their factory and being like, okay, so the thing that would work in your factory, whilst the kind of machine that showcases the technology doesn't work in our station, the thing that would work is if we can deliver this machine that completely automates the process from having a CAD model, so a 3D model digitally, that can then take you all the way through to a physical product of actually the what we refer to a last, which is the thing you make a shoe around. You can have a digital to physical last without any human intervention, then that would add huge amounts of value into their business. So then we say, okay, we'll make that machine. Hypothetically, this is what that machine will do. It will be, you can put in X number of CAD files and you'll press go, load in some material, and then you'll be able to walk away and leave it, and then come back and it will produce all those parts for you, and they'll be there waiting for you. And we were like, if we can create that machine, will you buy it? And they said, yes, yeah, we'll buy that. So then we went and drafted an agreement that was like, great, let's do that. Let's build up this position. We'll create that machine, and you guys will have it at the end. And there's some really cool stuff in that agreement that means we work really collaborative with them. It's not just us in isolation developing a technology. It's them helping inform the development process, telling us what they need from the product, telling us really in depth everything we need. We needed this a long time ago, this kind of good relationship, and now we've got it, and we've got the assurance that once the product is done, it's definitely got an end customer. So we're now in that development journey still today. We've been through this discovery phase with them, discovered all the potential pitfalls and unknowns, everything else in the technology. Now, literally today, the engineers with Josh are in the workshop, building this machine, or at least the very first version of it that will run at our place, to then deliver to them by February next year, which is really exciting. And what that machine does is completely automate the manufacture of a last. And that puts us quite firmly in the shoes of where we are today. But the other bit that we've realized now is when we kind of put our technology showcase out to showcase what we could do, it was like, we're going to tackle the world with everything, every problem, and go at solving so many things. But what we learned through that journey was where the real core value was in the technology. And that core value is all in the ability to rapidly manufacture custom-made products. And that brings you to the point of like, okay, well, how many industries at the moment really make custom made product and make it all the time? And when I'm talking mass manufacturing, I'm not talking like making a few hundred of these products that are different or like new prototypes or something like that. I mean like a supplier where you are supplying a customer with an end product that's completely made on demand. And there's only a few industries that really do that. So the medical footwear industry does it, but like typically a company might be making 8,000, 10,000 units a year, right? That is custom manufacturing, but it's not mass manufacturing. And that's on the cusp of where I think we really come into our own of being competitive against other methodologies that you could do this.
So so you're saying that you could take an industry that doesn't do custom mass manufacturing and turn it into custom mass manufacturing.
So that's, yeah. So when we look to, so yeah, at the moment today, there's only really medical footwear doing that. There's also some other industries like dental, for example, where they're making retainers and aligners that are all 100% unique, custom made to people. And to put it in perspective, the big companies in that will be doing things like making about 1 million aligners a day.
Wow.
So you're really, really high volume. And to make 1 million aligners a day, they have to 3D print a mold of that patient. But they've not only got 3D print one. If you want an aligner, they've got to 3D print maybe about 40 molds of your mouth that are all in slightly different tweaks as you progress through your treatment to having your perfectly nice straight teeth. And that's the process they have to go through. So that's quite there's a lot of printing and a lot of parts that then they can only just thermoform over once, and then they actually have to dispose of that part. So there's a massive amount of wastage. So we're like, well, that's then a mass industry that mass manufactures custom made product. And where we are on the cusp of is entering a product into that industry, because they're going way further on that custom made journey than what they're doing in the medical footwear space. But that's not to say that the medical footwear isn't a key part of our journey still. It still very much is, because we've created this machine and there's loads more machines we can create that industry to really revolutionize that industry. So you've kind of got this kind of multi-pronged position. And a large bit of that is because our speciality is about mass manufacturing a custom made product, right? And it's not necessarily important as to what that final end product is, really. It's about delivering the tools to enable them to do that. And the core technologies in both sides is exactly the same. It's just one we're trying to do on a completely different scale to what we're trying to do on the other side. And where it matures on the medical footwear side is actually taking that to real industry. But that's a long journey. And
when you say real industry, do you mean like Nike?
I mean the mainstream footwear.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly that.
Like, just an example, right? So I'm into running. For some reason, running trainers now seem to cost more than most, like, I don't know, small cars. You know, but they're not custom made, right? You still order one size, it's too big, you order another size, it's too small. So is that the kind of application that's working?
That's what we see as an emerging market. We see that actually it's where the footwear industry really needs to go. So if you look at the model now, right, and you just mentioned you spend a fortune on your trainers, and you spend a fortune on your trainers, or they're all being mass manufactured typically in Asia. 99% of that footwear will be made in Asia, made in absolute mass, shipped halfway around the world, put in a warehouse, and a huge volume of it, then maybe put in a store or in another company that's been sold to, who are then going to distribute the product. And then eventually you'll press order on those trainers and they'll be shipped to you. You might even press order on like 2 or 3 different sizes of those trainers, so you can figure out which size fits you best, maybe send the other 2 back. Really common practice. It's about a 40% return rate in that industry. You know, it's phenomenal. But you think about the capital flow in that as well. What's happening there? You're as a brand, right? You're purchasing that footwear from the factory, and that's maybe I don't know, purchase date minus 3 months, your purchase, you commit the funds, then they're making it, then you're having to spend shipping it over the world, then you have to spend storing it, then you have to spend on all these other points. So you're lots of money throwing it right down there, right? And to the point that you then, as a consumer, finally go, I'm going to buy it. And you pay your £10 million for your one pair of trainers. It's how much they cost nowadays.
Feels like it's that. Yeah. They just keep adding zeros on, yeah.
Right? And at that point, think how much money they've spent already to then finally get money from you. But that's charged you so much money because of the things like, well, you're buying 3 pairs and sending 2 back. That's all costing them in shipping. They'll end up with a huge amount of surplus product that will then have to be dealt with. And some of that dealing with is landfill. New product that's like, well, we haven't been able to sell it. It's going to landfill. Where does it get landfilled? Well, we don't throw it all away in the UK, do we? Ship it back around the world to then go back to its final destination. There's all of these parts of that process, which are crazy. The way we see that emerging market coming and we're reimagining that is scrap that. Start from scratch again and think, okay, well, does technology enable you to sit at home, get your phone out, get your shoes and socks off, scan your foot, and then go, right, that's the size of my foot, right? Press submit, and then be like, right, what shoe do I want? I want, I don't know, a Puma. I want it in purple. I want this color sole. I want that sponginess on the sole unit. I want all these things. I can customize everything, right? That's what I want my shoes to be like. Oh, brilliant. Well, obviously it's in stock because I'm going to press order, and then at your local factory, they're going to make that on demand and they're going to ship it to your door. That's what we think that emerging market's going to look like. Where suddenly you'll get to a point where you go, okay, that then goes to a factory that might make shoes for loads of different companies. Because at the moment, all the factories in the Far East will make for multiple different brands. There's no difference. It can be made by any of these local factories that have the capability. What they all have is shape-shifting tooling that enables them to be able to handle any brand, any design, any of these parts for any customer, and they can then customize things like the color, like everything else, build up that piece of footwear for you. It might be in Sheffield, and then ship it directly to your door. Or you're in Germany, it'll be made in Germany, or in Portugal, it's made in Portugal. It's local for local production. And then if you think about the cash flow in that scenario for the business side, that's cool for the consumer, right? You suddenly get
amazing. Yeah, I mean, I would pay a premium for that because that is genuinely a shoe that is made for your foot. So
it'll arrive. It will fit.
Yeah.
It will. You can even have done like some gait analysis digitally as well beforehand, so you know any support features, anything else you need in that footwear.
Sold. Yeah.
All of that is in there, right? So,
amazing.
So you get that, and that's wicked. But you think about the cash flow then for the brand still. Why would they want to do this, right? They've got these really cheap labour positions elsewhere and everything else. Well, suddenly they're in a position where you're committing the cash first for your order, and then they're going through the investment in making it. They're not shipping it around. They've not got returns costs. They've not got big waste costs. They've not got oversupply issues. They've not got a vulnerable supply chain that when someone parks their boat in the middle of the Suez Canal, you can't get anything past it for months and months.
Yeah.
It's got this crazy knock-on effect where actually, although we're different in labour cost country, if we can bring technologies through like polymorphic moulding that are going to enable you to have a completely automated or largely automated assembly line, you can suddenly be in a position where you're not competing on the low labour cost issue. So that's not a problem. We're in the UK, we're probably paying higher energy bills, but you can actually manufacture that footwear competitively, and it's a such more superior product to the person. They're so much confident and happy with it that they can go on their run and not end up with blisters and black toenails and everything else.
So amazing journey. Right, and no surprise to me, given your energy, that you've got as far as you've got. Right, incredibly successful in where you've taken Fyous. There'll be people watching this who are in your shoes when you were at university. So, what would your advice to those guys be, other than be financially responsible?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it all comes from a position of like I kind of reference I did at university is making absolute most of that opportunity. Like the art of the plug. Coming back to don't take university this really serious thing that you have to study and remember all of these formulas and everything else. Ultimately, learn how to solve a problem, learn how to get a degree at the end of it, but get as much life experience as you can possibly get in that time. Any opportunity you think you might be interested in, if you want to start trying to dance, try and dance there. If you want to start playing basketball, try to do that there. Do all these things, because after university, you suddenly don't have those opportunities at your disposal. So do all of that while you're there, and don't think too hard about what exactly that future is. When you come to that future point, you've learned how to solve a problem, right? And you can then solve that then, and then you could be that kind of slightly more time restricted person that, you know, is making the absolute most of any downtime they get. But just max out, like absolutely go for the fun.
Amazing. And I think that learn how to solve a problem, you can apply that to any business, pretty much anything in life.
I think that's the point, is like, I mean, not everyone, I don't think everyone sat at university should sit there thinking, I want to go and create a new business, because I don't think it is for everyone. You know, like, I meet people on a day-to-day basis. I mean, some people like nickname me like a Duracell bunny because of the level of energy, right?
That is what you need to run a business. You need a lot.
You do. You need loads of energy. You need loads of conviction. You're going to keep going at every hurdle. You get knocked down so many times that the idea that you know, it's kind of this easy kind of walk. It's not for everyone. If you can't make every opportunity awesome and enjoy it, it's not going to be the right thing for you to do. So I think don't always heart set you're going to create a business, but if you're genuinely serious on doing it, then yeah, make the most of the opportunities. Then start building foundations, build networks, build people. I mean, why did we get our first round of investment? It was entirely based on the fact that I was doing former student, and I was then able to get this right contact and everything else. And it was a teammate of former student that was working with Josh at the time that then just introduced. It's all the people who you know that then lead to these right opportunities that then make things happen.
Yeah.
So
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It is.
Yeah. And you know, full disclosure, like I'm an investor in Fyous as well. You know, that's one of the reasons we got you on the podcast. And I got introduced to you by somebody in my network. So, you know, that's exactly how business happens.
I think also, I do meet some founders now, and like at uni stage, and I really enjoy engaging with people who are hell bent on ruining their life. No, who are hell bent on
not a bad way to put it.
Who are hell bent on creating a business or doing something along those lines. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, absolutely, like graft on having fun. But graft on creating the foundations. And like university, special Sheffield, they've got like the Emerge program and loads of other cool stuff. Get involved in that stuff, meet people, do the networking events, talk to people who are setting businesses up, reach out to founders. Most founders, typically, if your angle is like you're genuinely trying to start a business, they'll spare a bit of time to chat to you about something. Like, if you want something doing, go to the busiest person to get it done, right? They just do so much more. And I think a lot of like business founders will be in that space. Like they're busy, but actually they'll do more. They'll still do more, and they will have a conversation with you. They'll tell you about some of your journey. They'll advise you on like little tweaks you can take on your path, and they'll have a look at a business proposal you've gotten an idea, and they'll point flaws out. Get all that out in the open. Don't hide the idea too much. Don't spend too long on that.
Do you regret hiding it for as long as you did?
I think I think possibly there might have been less pivots along the way. Maybe if we'd been earlier about talking about it. But equally, I don't know if everyone would have been able to follow through to the hype. It was really difficult to articulate what we were doing. Even when we had the technology showcasing it to people, they're like, cool, that thing is, those pins are moving, and what the hell am I going to do with that? So it's hard. Like sometimes it might be too soon to showcase it to the world, but don't necessarily keep it like, I can't tell anyone about this, otherwise I'm going to lose everything. I think you've got to find a balance. Maybe don't tell everyone everything, but selectively do tell.
Great advice. Well, thanks, Thomas. We've had a cracking conversation. It's been an amazing journey, and I think Fyous is going to go on and be a massive success. if not just because of your energy. So
Thanks, Ash. No, it's been a pleasure chatting, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Cheers. Thank you. I'm Ashley Tate. You've been listening to Founders Unfiltered, What It Takes. If you like what you've heard, give us a follow.